Hello and welcome to Lough Rynn Beekeepers, Bee Talk. This is episode 3. This is Killian Blount speaking, and I'm joined here in the studio by Joe Blount.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Lough Rynn Beekeepers.
Today we're speaking with Dr. Fiona Edwards-Murphy, CEO and co-founder of ApisProtect. Welcome, Fiona. We're delighted to have you here with us this morning.
Killian, it's great to be on. Thanks so much.
I see it's Dr. Fiona Edwards. What are you doctor of?
So I did my PhD at UCC. My background is in electrical and electronic engineering, and what I did was an interdisciplinary PhD between the schools of engineering and the School of Bees, which is Biological, Earth and Environmental Sciences in UCC. So it is, I guess, 50-50 science and engineering.
Oh, fantastic. Wow. So that kind of answers our second question. Do you keep bees yourself?
I actually don't own any beehives myself. ApisProtect owns beehives, which I guess they're my virtual beehives, but I've been in and out of beehives now for the last, since 2012, 2013. So what, eight years at this stage. So I think I haven't quite made the transition to owning my own beehives because my house is in the middle of a pretty built up area. And I think I might get a lot of complaints if I suddenly turn up and plop a beehive in the middle of all these houses where people have, children and dogs and stuff. As soon as I've got anywhere remote at all, I'll be having my own beehives.
So the hives then that you work on, are they on the campus?
They're at our office, so we're not on campus anymore in UCC. So ApisProtect, we founded ApisProtect in 2017, just after I finished up my PhD work. So it's been exciting. We did start out inside in UCC, renting offices from the Environmental Research Institute. So that was really nice to be able to hang around with researchers for a good while as we started up the company. But since then, we've kind of gotten too big for any space available there. So we've now got our own private offices.
Fantastic. You did your studies involving bees. What made you choose bees, or did you have a family history of it or a special interest?
That's a really good question. So I come from Kanturk in North Cork, so I kind of grew up with a rural background. Don't have any beekeepers in my family, or I'm the first beekeeper in my family, but I certainly grew up with bees all around me, and beekeepers living across the road and down the street and stuff like that. What really got me excited originally about this area is I was studying my undergrad at UCC, electrical and electronic engineering. I got involved with a research group there in my second year called the Wireless Sensor Network Group. So that is an area where what we do is we put sensors into the real world. It's gone through about 6 name changes in the length of time that I've been working on it. And now it's called the Internet of Things, but it didn't get that title until I had been working in that area for several years. And basically what I fell in love with was using sensors to make an impact on the real world. So while I'm an academic and I've done my PhD, I'm actually not particularly interested in very, very academic subjects. What I really loved about wireless sensor networks is taking sensor data, taking information and using it to make a positive impact on the real world. So basically what the internet
application.
Exactly. Yeah. So what the Internet of Things is, it's a really scary title, and lots of people go like they shut down immediately when you mention IoT. But really what IoT is and what IoT means, is putting sensors in the real world and using that data to achieve something meaningful in the real world. So I guess one of the kind of the simplest concepts that's gotten this really complicated title.
Yeah, I suppose what people might be familiar with is the fridge that when it's out of a certain thing, we'll order a dishwasher that sends you a text when it's done. And
exactly. I love and hate those examples, as in they're really easy to understand, but they're probably some of the most frivolous uses of IoT.
Sorry.
I worked with that group. I worked on projects where we were doing like structural health monitoring. So using sensors to help improve health and safety on sites in Italy, digging tunnels, construction, making sure that there weren't any like imperceptible to the human eye changes in the structure of the building. Working on human health, so using sensors to help improve access to medicine in the developing world. And what I really loved was these really simple, really cheap, really easy to deploy sensors can get this information that people never had before and really help them improve their lives. And that's when I started learning about bees, started learning about the problems that beekeepers are having. Really, I think what I noticed really early on is that it's not how there's one problem that beekeepers have, and if we just fix that problem, the whole, beekeeping wouldn't, the bees wouldn't be dying anymore. Basically, the problem is that there's so many things that can happen because there's so many diseases that have spread all over the world. There's so many problems. On top of that, you've got, weather changes and things like that. It's really, you could be facing like 20 different problems at any minute as a beekeeper. And that really what I thought was very exciting at the start was the idea that, sensor technology could really help you get some of that information faster, get that information back to you before you even get into your car to go to the yard. And that's exactly what, sparked the whole sensor technology and beehives thing for me. It was, we've got this awesome sensor technology that's great for getting data into people's hands. And beekeepers are people who really need more information to help deal with the huge amount of problems that they've got.
And Fiona, can you tell us how exactly the physical unit works within the hive?
Sure, I've got one here, and I know this is a podcast, so saying I've got one here isn't very helpful. So it's a small sensor device. It's plastic. It's about the size of an iPhone, I guess, is probably the best description. Yeah. And one of the most important facts about it is that it's 15 millimeters tall. So it's this sensor device. It gets installed inside in the beehive, so it gets attached to the underneath of the roof of the hive. And so it goes kind of above the crown board. We like to center it as close as possible over the feed hole so that the air from the bees themselves gets the maximum exposure to it.
Okay.
And inside in this device, there are 4 sensors. So there's a temperature sensor, humidity sensor, an accelerometer, which is basically a movement sensor, and then a microphone. And we collect the temperature, the humidity, the sound, the motion from the beehive regularly. So right now we collect it about once an hour throughout the entire day. And that data gets sent back to our servers at ApisProtect. So it's actually got a little 4G antenna inside it. So it uses the mobile network to send the data back to us. So you don't
all that in that little package. Goodness.
Right here, yeah. That's three years of solid work going into getting it this skinny. That's one of the biggest things. Also making it propolis resistant was another big obstacle, big engineering challenge for us. Yeah. So it sends that data back to us, and then on our servers, what we're able to do is we apply another scarily named technology called machine learning, which is, basically it's an algorithm that we've trained using examples of previous beehives. So since we founded the company in 2017, we've had hives all over the world. So we've collected 15 million data sets from 400 beehives spread across Ireland, the UK, the USA, and South Africa. So really, it was a fun period of work that stage, the kind of R&D development, because we got to travel all over the world and learn about beekeeping all over the world. And what our machine learning does basically is it looks at examples from the past. It looks at the beehives that it's seen before, and it says, okay, I've seen the patterns that are now present in your beehive in the past, in a beehive that turned out to, be declining, or it turned out to be queenlessness, or it had a particular problem, or it wasn't. It was either a really good beehive or a really bad beehive, or somewhere in between. And it's able to now say, so based on that information, I think this beehive today is good, bad, or in the middle. And the beauty of the machine learning technology is that it learns in a very similar way to a human brain. So it's basically, it learns from experience in the same way that we do. And we're able to improve that over time. As more people use this technology, the technology will get better because it's learning from itself constantly. And what we do now, or what we're doing now for Irish beekeepers, is we're able to put the technology into each beehive, and then the data comes back, and we're able to say, hey, you might have 5 beehives. Here's the 2 that are behaving very differently. Those are the 2 that you should be working on if you're going to go out and do an inspection. These are the 2 that you want to spend the maximum amount of your time on, because they're the ones that are behaving differently, and get them back into that middle category.
So it doesn't do away with the fact that I still have to go out and inspect the hives every week. It's just
exactly.
Which is the strong ones and which is the weak ones that I have to pay more attention to.
Exactly. Yeah. What I like the way that I like to describe it is we're not the doctor. You guys are the doctor. We're the stethoscope. So what we have is, a piece of equipment that can take your knowledge and take your expertise, because your beehives better than we will ever know your beehives. What our technology does is identifies which of your beehives you need to take your skills to. Because especially when we're working with beekeepers all over the world, I couldn't possibly suggest to a beekeeper in Arizona what they should do with their beehives right now. No matter how much I know about beekeeping, I still live in Cork in Ireland, and my information about beekeeping is based in Cork in Ireland. And even if you go up the country, go to a beekeeper in Donegal, a problem they have today could be completely different because the weather is completely different up there right now.
Yeah. And how is the beekeeper alerted then? How does the beekeeper access that information?
Yeah, so we have a web platform. So it's a website that you can log into, and that gives you all of the information that you've got about your beehive. So that's basically where all of the information comes together and is displayed. And it's really easy to kind of process and analyze. We put a lot of work into making it very visual.
Yeah.
And then we also have text and email alerts, so we can set up, when the hives go into extreme states or if they fall over. So one of the most important things that we do is we say, hey, your beehives were knocked over by the wind last night. And it sends a text and an email, or whichever one you prefer. You can turn those on and off if you don't want to be annoyed.
Is it only geared for the commercial beekeeper, the big scale beekeeper, or do you see a use for it in small apiaries or the hobbyist beekeeper?
So what we've done is we've actually split our product. We've got two products. So we've got one product that we launched in the USA last December, I think, officially. That's the product we have launched right now in the USA is for commercial beekeepers only. So we're working with big guys there who are involved in things like the pollination industry, which is really exciting and cool. And then here in Ireland, so for what we see for European beekeepers, but it's actually only available right now in Ireland. We've got our smaller scale technology. It's on our website. It's called our hobbyist technology, but I don't like that title because it implies that it's not serious beekeeping, and they're beekeepers in Ireland are very serious beekeepers. It's much more difficult to keep bees here than it is in a lot of the areas where our commercial beekeepers work. So we can't think of a better name, a better distinction between commercial and the smaller scale. So that's what's available in Ireland right now. So yeah, absolutely, all the way down to one beehive, this technology is valid for. And what we're working on at the moment, that's really exciting, that'll be coming online over the next few months, is to use collectively, one of the most important things about our technology is that it's able to say, look, this beehive is behaving differently to those beehives. So that's the beehive you want to work on. So when you've got a beekeeper with one or two or a small number of beehives, what we want to do there is compare their beehives against all of the beehives. So to create kind of an Irish, the like normal beehive in Ireland right now, or even the normal beehive in say Cork right now, and be able to say, look, you might only have one beehive, but it's behaving quite differently to all the other beekeepers in your area. So you might want to, look at your beehive and see if there's something going on. So, adding these layers of information as the technology is adopted into the market is really exciting for us.
And it's very exciting times for the beekeepers. I suppose the biggest question people would have, Fiona, would be, what cost is involved in getting one of these sensors in their hives?
So right now, beekeepers, if they're excited, they can go onto our website and pre-order our technology. So our 2020 run of our technology, right now it's €125 per monitor for the hardware. And then it's a €3.50 monthly subscription, and that's for the data collection. So we handle all of the data collection. You don't need to mess around with SIM cards or trying to connect to it with your mobile phone or anything like that. The 350 covers all of the work involved in getting the data out of your beehive and back to your phone or your laptop. So we handle all of that. So that's the pricing. Right now it's available on our website to be purchased. There's a little shop in the top right hand corner. We do have a limited number. It's a pre-order right now for delivery in a couple of months. We don't have a fixed delivery date right now. We're still working with all of the suppliers all around the world to confirm that delivery date. But we do have a very limited run right now. We've got a very specific order that we've placed, and it's about 3/4 of the way full right now. So if people are interested, book your spot, book your monitors as soon as possible. Exactly.
In terms of scalability, do they have to be a certain distance apart for the signal, or is there a maximum number if you have a very large apiary?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So right now, our technology in Ireland uses the LTE network. So really, there's no concerns about density. So one beehive and 10 beehives, they're not going to contest with each other for the network. If a beekeeper does have a good few beehives in one location, like say if you have, I think, maybe 25 or more in a single apiary, certainly you'd want to maybe reach out to us, because we do have our alternative ways of managing the connection that might work a little bit better for those very dense deployments. But generally, I think for most beekeepers in Ireland, the LTE solution is the best technical.
And I suppose when we were talking about it, the concern for the layperson is, does it affect the bees in any way, their navigation, their own inbuilt sensors of their own? Do your sensors hurt their sensors?
Absolutely. No, that's a question that does come up regularly enough. I mean, like I know people are concerned about, using this technology, bringing RF signals into your beehive, bringing an RF transmitter into your beehive is something that people don't regularly do, even though I guess in academia we've been doing it now for a while, but certainly for the lay beekeeper, we're very conscious of that. And as far as we're aware right now, RF signals aren't a big concern for honeybees. We keep up to date, obviously, with all of the research into that. Is a big research area. Right now, the kind of recommendation is that bees, and I think all other animals and people, shouldn't really be exposed to RF signals for more than 2 hours a day. And the way that we manage our radio isn't on all of the time. So what we do is we collect our data and then we send it in a little burst for a couple of seconds. So the RF part, so the radio part of our technology, is only on for less than a quarter of the recommended allowable amount of radiation for bees. So
okay, so it's not on all the time.
No, it's not on. It's only on for a couple of seconds
Right.
every hour or every couple of hours, depending on the situation. So it
Right.
can go between about a quarter and an eighth of the recommended amount of RF, which is still almost certainly, there's basically realistically what will impact the honeybees is like a huge amount. Then the recommended amount is a fraction of that. And we actually use a fraction of that recommended amount again. So it's really, your bees shouldn't be exposed using our technology to any more radiation than they are by just existing in the real world where we do have radio signals.
From talking to other beekeepers that they won't even bring a mobile phone into the apiary because they say that it affects the bees, and they're worried about putting your technology into the hive.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's an understandable concern. It is a change from what beekeepers would be used to be doing. But I think one of the most important things to bear in mind is that we're a very scientific team. We've put a lot of time and energy into monitoring the colonies, but monitoring the colonies that our technology is monitoring compared to the other beehives managed by the same beekeepers.
Okay.
It's been 8 years now. I've between the time in my PhD and then our work with ApisProtect. We've never come across a discernible difference at all between the hives that are monitored and the hives that are not monitored. So the hives that are exposed to the radios don't behave any differently to the hives that aren't. So that's probably the most important piece of evidence saying that this technology
can put some people's minds at rest. Yeah. And just from practical, I'm just thinking, okay, so it's under the cover above the crown board. So if we put a bit of fondant or something to feed the bees in that space, are we obstructing it, or how does that work?
Yeah. So it would be obstructing our the airflow up to our monitor. So what we've done over the last few years is we've made sure that we look at every different kind of deployment situation. We've had a good few supers, very few supers. So obviously, the more supers you add, our sensor travels away from the hive and travels back down towards the hive, like that. Feeding. Even we've had some beekeepers in the Midwest in the US who have this kind of duvet that they put in between the roof and the beehive. So basically what we've done is we put a lot of time and attention into like keeping our eye on, look, this is how the signals change when people change the layout of their beehives. So certainly there'll be a little wobble in the data and you'll be able to see that, and it's kind of interesting to see that even, but it shouldn't affect the results. We won't suddenly be saying, oh my God, all of your beehives are dead just because we put a bit of fondant in. And one other thing that's interesting as well is that you can actually input your own information into our website in order to kind of overlay your sensor data with your beekeeping notes. So you can basically input your inspection details, or even just you could put a little note saying I added fondant on Tuesday, and then there'll be a little line and you'll see the change in the data, and then there'll be a little line next to it saying that that's the day you added fondant. So it's able to kind of take into account that it's a changing environment, because that's exactly what beekeeping is.
It's amazing. That technology is just amazing. I'm just blown away by it. I don't understand half of it, but
yeah, it's really exciting. I remember all the way back to the very first time I ran. So I'd spent a good bit of time collecting data about beehives, and then the very first time I ran a machine learning algorithm on it, and it came out, something like 90% accurate, being able to detect whether the beehive was dead or alive. And I was like,
yeah,
that's amazing, that's unbelievable. And then I spent about a week after that trying to work out where I'd gone wrong, because I was like, there's no way it's able to do that with the information that I've put it in, but
yeah,
it does.
I remember we were doing some research for one of our classes, and it was about going back to the 1800s, where you had the likes of the Reverend Diggs and that going around the country promoting the CD beehive when they were changing from skeps to the wooden hives. And the old beekeepers at the time were saying, "Oh, it'll never take off. These wooden boxes will never take off." I think your technology, I think give it a couple, 10 years and it'll be in every beehive in the world.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we intend to get to anyway. But yeah, it's a really exciting time to be bringing technology to beekeeping. I mean, like it's certainly an area where, or it's an area of agriculture that hasn't really been impacted by technology to the extent every other part of agriculture has. I mean, like when you're thinking about like dairy farming or even just tractor technology, how it's all kept up really, really accurately. You know, you've got these tractors that drive themselves using the GPS. They're able to, you know, you're able to use satellite technology then to look at, you know, the amount of hydration in fields and stuff like that. And you know that really hasn't been the case for beekeeping. We're really taking beekeeping from a very traditional practice all the way up to IoT, which is the latest and greatest technologies. So it's you know, like that there is an adoption, and there's going to be a good bit of you know, kind of education, almost like, you know, showing people, look, this is the technology, this is how it works, it can actually have this much of an impact. But it's also really exciting to be able to take someone from, you know, we're not talking about a 1 or 2% increase in the output of hives. I mean, like we're talking about, with our commercial beekeepers in the US, we're talking about like doubling their gross margin and stuff like that, which is really exciting.
Will you ever get to the stage where you can actually be able to count the varroa or give an idea of the varroa load or something like that?
That's somewhere that we'd love to get to. Yeah. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible using, you know, the sensors that we have right now are kind of, they're stepped back. They're looking at the environment in the hive rather than, like, they never look at an individual bee or an individual varroa mite or anything like that. Yeah. Certainly we're confident that our technology will help improve the kind of varroa count in an apiary, because by directing beekeepers to the beehives that are underperforming, a lot of the time when you work out why it's underperforming because it's got a varroa infestation. So it does kind of indirectly improve varroa levels, but we definitely don't like try to measure varroa, and I don't think it's going to be possible with the sensors that we've got. But you know, at ApisProtect, we've got a team. We're based, something I never mentioned, we're based in Cork. We've got a team of 10 based in Cork. All of our manufacturing is done in Shannon. We're, you know, a very, even though we deal a lot with beekeepers abroad, we're a very proud Irish company, and you know, our R&D team based in Cork, always really excited. We're coming up with new uses of technology every day, and I don't think varroa isn't going to escape our attention forever.
Good.
So it's manufactured in Ireland also?
Yes, yeah, okay. In Shannon.
It's not coming away from Hong Kong or China or something like that?
No, obviously there, as with every electronic device on the planet, it ultimately, the parts came from China, but it's assembled, manufactured, designed, everything in Ireland, which is about as good as possible. Yeah, and another really important thing as well is that because we're shipping from inside in Ireland, once we get our heads around, you know, getting all the parts in from China and we confirm our delivery date, Brexit, coronavirus, all that stuff isn't going to impact our delivery date once we have it, because once everything's in Ireland, there's not much they can do to stop us.
And I was reading actually last week, though it is cutting edge what you're doing, it actually goes back quite a while. I was reading about a gentleman who, he had a microphone, like almost like a stethoscope, that attached to the outside of the hive. I'm sure you're aware of for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it though.
No, I can't either. I think I might know the paper you're talking about. There was a guy who he was like recording it onto tapes, recording queen piping and tooting, and I think that was that's by far, I mean, like obviously I was reading every single paper in history about anything to do with this for my PhD. That was the most interesting one. There was this guy, and he was able to, with really, really like crude technology compared to what we have today, he was able to detect queens piping and quacking. Then he was able to estimate like the age of the queens, like how many, like the queens of the eggs, how many days they've been there, and then the queens themselves, was it a 2-year-old queen or a 1-year-old queen, just from the changes in the sound from the tooting and the quacking in the hive.
Yeah, so it took a bit of a slowdown, but you're picking up that course.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great.
So Fiona, what does the future hold for ApisProtect?
Yeah, so I mean, our objective is really, now that our technology is designed, certified, ready to roll, it's really getting it out into the real world, getting beekeepers to use our technology, keep improving it obviously all the time. We're very excited to do that too. So like I said, our technology is now available for commercial beekeepers in the US and for beekeepers in Ireland to pre-order. And I think our next objective really is to take our technology that we're working with. Well, first of all, we want to make Irish beekeepers the most technologically advanced beekeepers in the world. and then we're going to take it to the rest of the European
Amen
beekeepers.
to that.
Exactly. No, we're so excited. We've gotten so much support over the last few years as well from Irish beekeepers. You know, we've got such a great history as well. I mean, like definitely until I got into beekeeping, I wasn't aware of just how much of a history of beekeeping we have here in Ireland. I think it's only right that like this technology, this bee saving technology, is coming from the same place that St. Governor lived in Cork.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So if anybody wants to keep up to date with with us as we bring our technology all over the world, we've got our newsletter. So if you go onto our website at www.ApisProtect.com, we've got a newsletter there. It goes out about once a month, so it's not invasive, and I think it's really interesting. So of course I would. And then also we're on every social media platform that you care to use: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at ApisProtect, on all of them.
Fantastic. That's really great. Well, we look forward to seeing the future of that as things continue to go very well.
Excellent.
Okay, Fiona, thank you very much. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was a great chat.
And I will talk to you again.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, lads. Bye.